respected Professor Pandey, my friends on the dais, and the young minds, the future of India, sitting in the audience. I'm honored and humbled. The problem with these awards is that, we begin to take ourselves very seriously. I have done this, I have achieved, I'll go and say exemplary contribution. And I think Raman, I really loved his speech. And he said chance and convert that into choice. I would like to talk about myself, but I call it serendipity. It's the same thing. And I don't have too many nuggets of knowledge. Can't talk about artificial intelligence, though I'll talk for 30 seconds. Professor Vandana gave excellent example where it can be used, and a lot of nuggets of knowledge from my friend Ada Rajiv. Let me start with a joke here. There was a priest who used to give his sermon every Sunday for exactly 13 minutes. But one day, he kept on speaking. And somebody said, what happened? And he said, look, I bring a candy from home. I put it in my mouth. I start sucking the candy. When the candy finishes, my sermon finishes exactly 13 minutes. He said, what happened today? He said, I forgot the candy. I put a button in my mouth. So, sorry, I did not bring any candy. And the other problem is my wife doesn't let me speak at home, so I've got a captive audience here. So I'll take my time too. Carrying on to Raman's theme of serendipity, it is truly serendipity. And he talked about there were hardly any jobs and he became a medical representative. Let me start with the same way. My father was, his family, my grandparents, all refugees from Pakistan, came over empty-handed, 8 of them, 6 brothers, sisters, parents. My father was the eldest, and none of the others had passed high school. And he was the one who stood first his entire life. And he didn't know what to do. So he couldn't study long, so he joined B.Pharm. So just to tell you, ये हमारा पुश्तैनी धंधा है. So, as usual, he stood first in B.Pharm as well. If you visit Punjab University, Chandigarh, 1949, first name on the honor board, Professor Harkishan Singh, and the 4th name on the board is my father. He was a gold medalist from there. Now, he needed a job, any job, and he started a job. One generation later, India was the same. 2% GDP growth, 2% population growth, $140 per capita income, hardly any jobs. So my father said, okay, you join B.Pharm, at least I'll get you a job. I said, sure enough. I went and joined B.Pharm. Serendipity number 1. I did not know that pharmaceutical industry in India was on the cusp of a revolution. Imagine multinationals ruled the roost. Indian companies were nowhere. API was imported from Italy and tablets were punched in India. And I entered the industry at that time without realizing what the future holds. So that's serendipity number 1. Joining an industry which was going to be a global industry of Indian origin apart from IT. I was 16 in my first year, and I volunteered for the Silver Jubilee of Indian Pharmaceutical Conference. And the Delhi chapter president, one of the organizers, was Dr. Rajiv Singh, managing director of Ranbaxy. Ranbaxy had a global turnover at that time of 2 crores annual. So I met with him, and I can tell you one thing. I have been to 40 countries. I have never met a visionary like him in my entire life. The story of India and the story of pharmaceutical industry to large extent in the world, I would say on the pharma side there are 3 individuals. Dr. Parvinder Singh, Dr. Anji Reddy and Dr. Yusuf Hamid. They contributed far more than anybody else into this industry. And I'll come to this topic a little later. Serendipity number 2. One day I would like to work with Dr. Balwinder Singh. Now I complete my B.Pharm and my father said, look, we didn't have any money, I couldn't study long, otherwise I would have studied longer. Why don't you go for masters? No M.Pharm in Delhi. It was a new college, and we talk about very fondly and very respectfully of Mr. S.L. Nasa. He joined, he was the first student as a B.Pharm student, and I was probably third or fourth batch. He started in 71, I started in 73. B.Pharm had just started, there was no M.Pharm. So, serendipity number 3. Somebody told me there is, BHU has a program. It turned out it's the first pharmacy institute in the country in 1932, started by Professor M.L. Shroff. So there's an All India entrance JEE of the IITs. I appeared, and very surprisingly I got in, and there I was doing M.Pharm. And that changed the whole world. Because you are interacting with chemical engineers, ceramic engineers, mining, metallurgy, half of them going abroad, talking of business management. And that opened the world for me. Because all I knew in B.Pharm was that, we want to be a manufacturing chemist. And in my B.Pharm, I did a summer internship in the Ranbaxy factory. And I tell you, I took an oath. I will never work in manufacturing. Nothing wrong with it, nothing wrong with it. It's an individual choice. I just didn't like it. So what do? I thought I'll do research. After M.Pharm, I'll go for PhD, got admission in the US. In fact, my M.Pharm, I published, from my thesis, there are 9 research publications, including in Europe. And I don't want to name the person. A very, very senior government official is very fond of telling people, including my wife, that I copied Rajiv's M.Pharm thesis and did my PhD. So I thought, well, this is great, but then I read a book. The author was somebody called Art Linkletter. The book was written in 1976. Nobody has heard of that author. You surely haven't. And the book was simply how to be a super salesman. I said, aha, I don't want to be in manufacturing. I don't want to go abroad and do PhD. I don't want to do R&D. Don't want to teach. I want to be a salesman. So that's what I wanted to do. And I said, who will teach me sales? And of course, you are interacting with all the IITians, and I thought, okay, go for an MBA. Remember, nobody in pharmacy profession had heard of MBA at that time. So I applied for IIM Ahmedabad, Calcutta. Bangalore was very poorly rated those days. Nobody went there. FMS was rated higher than Ahmedabad. So I went, passed written, passed group discussion. I was interviewed for IIM Calcutta. And trust me, the interviews had no clue what pharmaceutical sciences are all about. They simply asked me a question in the interview, what kind of a job will you get? Well, I didn't go there. I went to Ahmedabad to get a better clue. And then, as luck would have it, started my career with Ranbaxy with Dr. Singh as a management trainee. Now on to the next one. Please note this down. Success is the biggest cause of failure. When you succeed, you become arrogant. When you become arrogant, you stop learning. When you stop learning, that's a sure shot path to failure. And that's what was beginning to happen to me. 10 years, 7 promotions. Revital, Cifran, launch of the year. We grew sales 5 times in 6 years. My division from rank 13 to rank 2 in those 6 years. Glaxo was number 1 and we were number 2. And then I said, I want to see the other side. I want to see the patented side. So Lilly was starting. I was the first person to join Lilly. And that was a rebirth for me. When I was here last time, I spoke about it. That is respect for the people. It's not all about strategy. It's not about brilliance. You are working as a team. A team contributes a lot to your success. And for any one of us to take credit of what all others have contributed is foolish. And that was the biggest learning for me. And of course, the beauty of Lilly is rotated you in different functions, unlike what happens in India. And sure enough, 3 years here, Director of Sales and Marketing, went on to the US, Head of Business Development for Infectious Disease as a global head. And my first week there, and a Nobel laureate level scientist calls me and says, "Oh, you are Head of Business Development, Infectious Diseases. Please get me the coordinates for a protease." I fell off my chair. I says, "What are you talking about?" He says, we want to develop a protease inhibitor for hepatitis C virus. I'm talking, this is 1996. So I said, "What are you talking about? Can you please teach me?" Extremely humbling experience, which tells you that you know nothing. You know nothing. And you need to learn all your life. He was kind enough. Hepatitis C virus has 3 sites where enzymes act. Hepatitis C virus replicates. There is helicase, no drug can bind. There is polymerase, we have a program. There is a protease, go and get it. So excellent. I found there is a company called Vertex, and CEO Josh Boger, he was with Merck, and he didn't believe in high throughput screening, combinatorial chemistry. He said rational drug design. He founded Vertex, and he was designing, and he found the structure of protease. So I called Vertex. By the way, Eli Lilly at the moment has a market cap of $1 trillion. Nvidia is about $3 trillion. Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft, Berkshire Hathaway, and Lilly, highest in pharmaceutical industry. I called, pick up the phone, called Vertex. I'm calling from Eli Lilly. Bring your team here. We would like to talk about a collaboration for protease. And they said no. And I thought, this 1 week in the US, my first job in the corporate center, and I said, I've lost my job. I'm done. My career is over. So I went to my boss and said, "Look, this is what has happened." He says, "You need to get down from your high horse." So I went back, called them, folded hands. "Can we come over, please?" I took it a long story short. We went over, we did the deal. It was the largest deal of infectious disease in the history of the company. $25 million went to the board. Developed a drug, was launched in 2013 called Telepravir. Did about $1 billion in the year of launch. Lilly walked away. Then on to Russia, on to Vienna. I'm just go on and on. Every experience was a humbling experience, telling me, please don't take yourself seriously. Please remember how little you know. So when you talk about standing here, contributing, I don't know. Whatever I did for myself. I don't know what I contributed, honestly. I was just trying to survive. That's all it was. So then I came back for a stint here as managing director, then became chairman, managing director of Lilly, went back to the US, settled down, no plan to come back. I'm the only child, wife's the only child. 2010 we said we'd go back. 2011 I came back as president of Ranbaxy. Increased EBITDA 6 times, revamped the international organization, created a new planning cell, revamped the entire R&D, focused on future, changed all the strategies, blah, 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 and the company got sold. And here I am, out of my job. So once again, please don't take yourself seriously. And I love the word which someone said, well, my boss used to say, make your compulsion your strategy, and you are saying, make your compulsion your choice. So, whatever situation you are, do your best, keep on learning, And as I said, I joined when this industry was at the cusp of a revolution. From them, Ranbaxy being the first company to launch new products, first company to make API, first company to export API, first company to export formulations, first company to set up their own teams in multiple countries. It was truly a multinational of Indian origin in any industry. It was the first one. When I joined, I started with Ranbaxy, ended with Ranbaxy. I joined when the sale was 2 crores. When I left, it was 12. I was handling a sale of 12,000 crores with 10,000 people across 46 countries reporting to me. That's what Dr. Singh created. He created a blueprint for industry, and I was chatting with Dilip Sangvi. I said, Dilip, all that Indian industry needed to do was copy Dr. Singh. Initially, he used to say, you know, we were inspired by him, and in the end, he says, we actually copied him. That's how industry grew. Yusuf Hamid, we all know what he did. He saved millions of lives in Africa. He said, to hell with patents, and we will export anti-AIDS drugs to Africa and save the lives. And the drugs he exported was less than 1% the cost of what the patent would cost. He's known for that. And Dr. Anji Reddy, all these MSNs and Heteros and BDS, all these companies came out, these guys who have worked with Dr. Anji Reddy. And that's how Andhra Telangana is the mecca of API. Not to forget about Poonawala's, largest manufacturer of vaccines in the world. In all the developing countries, the children's lives are saved: diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, hepatitis B, polio, because of Serum Institute of India. My last message to you: money is a byproduct. Please, always have a higher goal. And these three are known because they were all very rich, they were all very successful, their companies did very well, but each one of them have a higher goal. That's how they were able to contribute. If you talk of exemplary contribution, that is what is exemplary contribution. I'm just standing on the shoulder of those giants. That's about it. And you are on the cusp of another revolution. Artificial intelligence. You heard Professor Vandana. You probably read about it, and you can go to ChatGPT and find out. Drug discovery, drug development, pharmacovigilance, clinical trials. AI will begin to predict. It will tell you what kind of drugs to design, and it will begin to personalize the drug, that which drug will work with what patient and what will be the side effects in advance. And I think there will be a day when FDA will say you can go directly from the computer to human, bypassing all the animal studies, saving, I would say, saving maybe $1 billion in cost and years in time. That's the world you are walking into, and those are the opportunities you have. Well, I didn't have when I started. So therefore, message to them: आसमां इनकी ज़मीं इनकी ज़माना इनका, इनको जाना है मेरे जहां से आगे. Thank you.